Welcome once again to Get Moving TV here in Ventura. There's so many things that are hidden here in Ventura in terms of technology and arts. We really want to concentrate on science, technology, engineering, the arts, agriculture, mathematics. We really want to steam people up. We really want everything to be interacting with one another. And I'm quite lucky today to have Suzy Thatcher on Get Moving TV. So Suzy, tell me a little bit about, you're in Ojai, is that?
Yes, I live in Ojai, and I just want to say I am delighted to be here today. I'm a special education teacher, and I work with 3rd through 6th grade, a special day class at an elementary school, Miners Oaks Elementary School. One of the things that I really enjoy in Ojai is theater, and I do a lot of local theater, and I sit on the Ojai Youth Foundation board and on the board of the Storytelling Festival, so my passion definitely lies in children and in theater, and figuring out ways to bring theater to children and bring theater to the children to theater and get them involved and give them opportunities to really express themselves, particularly students with intellectual disabilities and challenges and maybe that haven't had the opportunities and faith in them, the opportunity to grow and strut their stuff on stage.
When we started, you came by our house to pick up a guitar that had been signed by Bonnie Raitt.
Oh, how exciting that was,
And
yes.
So, even touching that and knowing that she was there. And that was around a program that Eddie Taduri has. Eddie
Taduri is a life changer. Eddie Taduri I met about 4 years ago at my elementary school through our Director of Special Education, Jackie Law. I said, I'd heard about TRAP. I said, just the little bit I know it's perfect for my classroom. How do I get it? She said, I'll introduce you to Eddie. You'll have it next year. And so I met with Eddie and I met with Jackie, and we set up times for him to come. And he brought drums and different types of percussion instruments and taught my staff and I how to implement that amazing program. And I watched students some of my students are at a more functional level. I've watched them being able to spell out their name using a drum or add numbers together. And when Eddie comes, the smiles are just amazing. And so they love the idea, and so do I. Eddie is a really incredibly inspiring, humble individual who really has changed the lives of children and adults, and certainly mine.
Well, when I met Eddie, he was everywhere but Ventura County. And so we really have worked really hard through Jackie Law to get the drums there. And it's not a drum circle, it's really, and what you learn is inclusion. And the drums kind of really help with that. Suddenly the other kids in the class go, ooh, you get to play with drums. And so tell some of your experiences with TRAP, which is the Rhythmic Arts Project. In terms of, they learn colors, they learn some problem solving, but it's so much about the social parts too. So
the social part is amazing because one thing the students are allowed to do is be the conductor and stand up and conduct the rest of the students on the drums, and so they can raise their hands to maybe raise the level and lower their arms to lower the level. And so there's a sense of empowerment there and control there that is just wonderful to see. And they all want to have their turn to be the conductor, and they all want to have their turn to play first and set the tone, and then have the other students follow their lead. So I've seen some real dramatic growth with those kids with that program, and I know they love it, and they love it when I get the drums down and we have that opportunity to do it not only as a group but individually, because my staff have learned the program so they can pull the drum down. The speech therapist has been so excited about it that she pulled a drum down to her speech therapy room for when she's working with students, and our OT person too, who actually was one of Eddie's angels when he was in his healing process. Sandra Johnson was one of his therapists.
And I think that's the point Eddie makes, is that he's got a curriculum,
no,
but it's more what people bring to that curriculum that really makes the difference.
It's really exciting because there's so many different ways to use that program. And it's as individual. I mean, there is a design for it, but there are as many ways to use it as there are different students and different students' needs. So it's very creative, and it's always growing and developing.
So we've talked a little bit about that level of drama, and it is drama when you have a conductor, and it is drama when you see someone who's so caught inside themselves and start to open up and look at Eddie's eyes never move, and his warmth and acceptance never move.
He's wide open, and you can feel him make a direct connection with those students the moment he walks in the room. And when he engages with one student, everyone else disappears. You can see that he is totally engaged with that student, and that student is totally engaged with him. And I've seen students who don't always engage really easily just sort of fall into his eyes. He's a very safe haven for those kids.
So you have other things you do with drama in Ojai. So
I do.
And so how does drama add into the lives of children?
It's amazing what happens. And I'll tell you a story from quite a few years ago. I've been teaching about 30 years. And what I found, and I've been involved in theater for 40 plus years, many more actually, and used to take my children when they were young, and they'd be in the ensemble. When I was on stage, I met my husband on stage, so it's really been in my background a very long time. But I had a student in a resource class who was painfully shy, and she hardly ever said anything to anyone. It was a very difficult space for her, and I put together this little theater program with Shel Silverstein, and I asked her if she wanted to do the opening poem, and it was, magic bean buyers come in, and she took it home and she memorized it, and I dressed the kids up, they wear jackets or hats or whatever they felt comfortable wearing, and when she put that hat on and she memorized that poem, she absolutely stole, it always makes me cry, she absolutely stole the show. She was amazing, and her parents were absolutely knocked out because she hardly ever said anything to anyone, and then she was this phenomenal person when she was safe on stage, when she knew what she was going to say, when she had a costume and she could develop a character. And it was enchanting to watch. And so that was a pretty life-changing moment for me, because I always knew I loved theater, and I know how much my children enjoyed it when they were younger. As adults, they wouldn't dream of getting on stage, but at the time, they did really enjoy it. And then as I began to work more and more in special education, I began to just write it into my curriculum. And so recently we did a show a couple of years ago, a student I met who, when I first met him during summer school, would run out of the room or hide under the table. He had a lot of fears and anxieties, and he has been the star of the last 2 or 3 of the performances that we've done in our classroom. But again, with a script and a costume and that sense of identity, because he scripts anyway. He will often, he's on the autism spectrum, and he will often script from something he's on television or someplace else. His parents, I think that's the biggest thing, and that's one of my biggest passions. When I work with special needs children who sometimes have been written off, or people may not have really realized what kind of gifts they have, because they're measured by standardized tests or a system that really doesn't take into consideration other ways of learning and giving and growing and having artistic talent. I see their parents come, and I see the tears. I see the growth and the happiness and the pride that those parents feel in seeing their children perform. Ruby last year, or 2 years ago, she speaks 2 languages, Spanish and English, and she would just talk like this. And once we made her the queen of our King Bidgood, and the safari person in our other Rumpus in the Rainforest, again, costume, script. She didn't even need a mic. I mean, she was able to really project. So I know I went on a little bit about that, but that is a huge passion for me, to make those connections for those kids to get on stage. I felt it so strongly that I wrote a grant last year to the Ojai Educational Foundation, and they gave about $3,000 for us to put a brand new stage in at our elementary school, so that I can then take, I set it up with the high school teacher at the high school next door. He said they need feeder schools for their theater program. So we're going to take some of our students from the general ed population and some of our students from the special education population, and walk them over 2 or 3 times a week, and they're going to partner up with high school students, and they're going to learn skills, and then they're going to do a showcase so that their parents and people in the community can come and see them perform. And so that will be great for the high school students in their drama program. As they're learning, they're also going to be teaching younger students, and then they're going to perform together.
So don't forget to donate to
Ah, yes.
the Ojai.
Call me. We still need a calendar. Yes, we
Yeah.
still need we still need a curtain. They bought us a brand new. Yes, Ojai Educational Foundation. Yes, definitely, because they've been very generous.
So as adults, I guess we should be wearing more costumes and being more on stage and enjoying our own drama and not losing what it sounds like we've lost in childhood.
I think we do lose something in childhood. I think I've managed to hold on to a little piece of that, and I think the reason for that is because I work with young children, and because I'm enchanted by them, and I'm enchanted by their strength, and I am also inspired by how hard they work to overcome things that we as adults often take for granted, and particularly students that might have an IEP, or particular students that might have disabilities or challenges that we can't even imagine. So I am honored. It's like an honor to get to work with them and find opportunities for them to shine. So that is you asked me earlier what was my passion. Yeah. That is my passion, finding a stage for them on which to shine.
To me, it's such a tool of inclusion, too, so that as the other kids see them, and now they can see them in bonds, and they're not afraid, they're not walking the other way, that
absolutely.
There's something social and something to talk about.
It's huge.
Now, I think one of the first things you and I ended up doing together, unfortunately we were ill that night, was this whole thing about concussion and traumatic encephalopathy. Yes. What's the name of the playwright who we?
Christine Rosensteel.
And so, how did she end up thinking that this would be a good drama, something to bring across to the public?
Well, she has a good friend back east whose son had struggled with that, and I believe that he eventually passed away. And Christine was very inspired by that and really wanted to do something about that and make her play meaningful. Mm-hmm. So the idea was to write that and find the actors, find an audience for that and to continue to hone that and put that together to help educate, to make sure that we protect our kids, because football is, it's exciting to a great many people, and it's sort of besides baseball, sort of the American pastime. And I know it brings in a great deal of revenue in our country, so it's big business. But we also need to make sure that we're protecting our children when they start to play, and maybe even more than helmets, and really take a look at how they play and what they need. So more than a hat.
Yeah, well, it's such a struggle for the adults who have it. We've had Chuck Muncie was on our board at one point, and you can't get hit by 300-pound people and not have it affect you. And besides all the other injuries that he had. So, but it's also, you see how disabled they feel, and so really trying to minimize the feeling of disability, that they just have they're differently abled.
And I really like that, yes. And then finding just whether it's theater, whether it's through art, whether it's through music or a combination of those things, outdoor gardening or some kind of outdoor design program or something in nature, related to nature. These are all really healing things, and I really connect the arts. I really feel that that's an art too, is the outdoors, and can be very healing in spending time there. The solitude and the connection to the earth and the sense of stewardship. And I think I went off on a little tangent, but
No, that's where we're at.
But when I have I'm 65, so I'm not sure how soon I'll have in my dreams, I have my own school, and I would teach all subjects, what they need to know to graduate through art and music and theater and outdoor education and gardening.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a great place to learn science, technology, and
It's
mathematics
everything.
as well.
It's
yeah.
all there.
Yeah.
It's all there. You could put the textbooks, not that there aren't some really good textbooks, but they're not necessarily put out by the publishing companies for schools. But, you know, you could, reading literature, all of that.
So do you have another program you and your husband were working on?
My husband and I sit on this, the board of for the Storyteller Festival, and I know we missed that last year, and that's coming up here pretty quickly in September. And I brought some information about that, you know, hopefully we can share with people, because that's going to be a combination at Libby Bowl and at the Ojai Arts.
So
At the building.
what occurs during the Storytelling Festival?
Well, there's a combination of things. There are storytellers that come from all over the country, and they come and they share their ability to tell stories. They'll be telling stories from all over the world. There'll be music. There'll be something called Naughty Tales that you will leave the children home, and mom and dad might just want to go out for an evening and enjoy those stories. There will be stories of enchantment and sad stories and happy stories, and there will be opportunities to for schools to come, which is really a thrill. They offer buses and to bring students. I've taken my students to the Storyteller Festival in the past at Libby Bowl, so they can listen to the storytellers. And what it does is, again, it inspires and gets kids excited about telling stories and thinking about stories and sharing stories and how to communicate, and community, sense of community, and all the things we really want to instill in them for the connection. It's a connectedness to the world.
Well, what goes on behind the curtain, maybe you could talk about the work that you and your husband have to do, and then what the Libby Bowl has brought to the community and who has access to it. And
Oh, right. The Libby Bowl is pretty exciting to have in our community, and I know there were a few years ago where they weren't sure if it was going to make it, and they thought they might have to do some, and did have to do some pretty serious renovations to it, but now they're bringing in really class act music. They have the Jazz Festival, they have the Art Festival, I mean the Music Festival, and the Storytellers Festival, and so it's an opportunity to again, on Veterans Day, they have a beautiful patriotic program. And they have movies in the summertime, and that park is amazing too, that they have that family night where they have music in the park and balloons, and you can stroll through, and it looks like something out of the 30s or 40s. Pretty lovely.
yeah, when I talk to people who have heard aunts or uncles taking care of their kids, so mom and dad can go off, they're always looking for something that's family friendly, that doesn't involve going to somewhere where you're spending $800 on somebody with a mouse.
And I think you can get, a bottle, some water and a little treat over there for, I think the balloons they said this year were free, and that's great for the kids, and so you can pick up a little snack or something, and it's, you can enjoy your family and enjoy some music, good music, and yes, not spend a lot of money like you might. Not that the fair is not great for kids, but sometimes that's a little difficult if you have a lot of children. But I have grown children with grandchildren, and they like to come over to Ojai to enjoy some of the delights we have over here. And they live in Ventura, which is also a wonderful place to live. But
Let's talk more about theater in Ojai. Now, you've been involved. What are the theater events that you're involved in? Because we want to make sure people know about theater there.
I have been involved in both the Oh Yes Theater, which was over at the building for Theater 150, and then they moved over to the Ojai Community Church, and have a great, because the building sold over on Matilaha, and have really a great venue over there. So I've been involved with them doing, when I first came to town, doing some children's theater with them, which was just enchanting, and I just loved it. So I did James and the Giant Peach, and Frog and Toad, and Puss in Boots. And then I moved into some activities or some shows at the Ojai Arts Center, and I did MAME, and I just recently did Putnam County Spelling Bee. Gay Jones directed that. There's also, John Medeiros also does some improv classes in town too, and he is actually going to be directing Animal Crackers, which is coming to Ojai Arts Center in the wintertime, in November. Right now, Anything Goes is happening, and
So how do you develop your craft there? So Ojai is a place I planned on retiring there, and I guess I probably should get around to doing that someday. We've got
Maybe you will,
Zumba
Doc.
and all
Yeah.
kinds of Ojai art walk around to see artists in their homes. But so did you start on acting as a small person, or you came into it later in life? And did you take acting classes?
I started singing when I was in elementary school and performing. And then when I got into middle school, high school, I got really interested in theater and performance. And I felt alive, and I still do, more alive on stage than any. It's a high. It's a drug.
You put on your hat.
Yeah, you put on your hat, and it's amazing. It's really hard to describe. No one would work as hard as an actor would work. Local theater, 5 shows a weekend, or 4 shows, and rehearsals every single night, and unless you really got something electric from it, and so it's amazing. So I started performing in drama clubs in high school. When I went to college later in life, then I minored in drama. But I really did, and I took every opportunity to perform, and I did some local television spots. I was living in Arizona, and looked for auditions. Did a little voiceover work. So I just looked for opportunities to perform and use. And I want to inspire, and I love the feeling of sharing when you feel the energy from the audience, and you go in and you start to perform, and it's sort of a give and take. It's very exciting. And again, when I'm thinking about those students doing that, I want them to get that.
Feel the electricity.
I want them to feel that, yeah, and feel alive and excited and about life. And so I want them to get what I'm getting from it. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I see it in their parents' eyes that something good is happening. So
in terms of the work, I guess, so voiceover work, you just answered something on Craigslist, or
no,
people?
I started with a company, Voice 123. My husband and I both did, and we set up a little studio in our home a few years ago. And I just started so that then I'd get opportunities to audition. So I'd audition for some things, and I got a little work. But it's pretty competitive business because a lot of big names, big stars are doing a lot of voiceover work now. But it was exciting, it was fun, and I went and I made a demo, and sent that out. And I still have an account. When we moved, we just didn't set up our studio. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful way to make an extra buck or two and enjoy yourself and hear yourself. Hear the commercial when it's done, and
Fame, fortune to follow.
Or maybe, yeah, and even if there's no fame, fortune to follow, it's that opportunity. Yeah, it's just that opportunity to perform and hone your craft and feel like, it's like when you're doing each show and you talked about the process, you think, oh, in this show I learned this, and I can take that to the next show I do, and I will be better at, whatever that is. Just like anything, it's a process. And you hope that each time you get better at what you're doing and learn something new. Because when you're working with fine actors and fine technicians and all of the people that it takes to put a show together, it's humbling. It's amazing.
So what is something that maybe you learned from another actor there when you...
Let's see.
I mean, I was just reading over Heath Ledger preparing for the Joker, and he's keeping a Joker diary, and he's looking at himself every day. Jared Leto trying to fit in Heath Ledger, all trying to figure this out. How do you get inside this person? Who is that person? So
that piece too, getting your ego. Yes, that's some big things I've learned. Setting aside your ego to allow things to come through. And another thing I learned that was really important from John Medeiros, who I highly respect as an actor and a performer and a person, is that gift of being able to listen, to really not plan what you're going to say, not engage so much in talking and then just wait for another opportunity to talk, as much as really process and then respond to that. Really hear what the other person's saying, because that is really fine acting. So getting your ego out of the way, and although actors are known for having huge egos, I mean, that's part of it, right? But the other piece, the biggest piece that I've learned and really pay attention to, is that listening and really hearing what your partner, your scene partner, or your person you're performing with on stage is saying to you, and what they're saying with their words, what they're saying with their eyes, what they're saying with their bodies, and respond to that. So that's huge, and that's from, and that's improv, which is one of the hardest things I've done. That's harder than performing on stage or the script. Yeah.
So, and then, so musicals are part of what you do as well?
Musicals,
So how do you memorize all the lines? We're coming up
that's
to
so
the end,
crazy.
but I just, yeah, oh my gosh, I don't have
Memorizing
no
the lines
idea.
is really a challenge. And the last couple of shows I've done, I thought that I've noticed it's a little tougher to memorize, but I have these little processes that I use, and I record them, and I listen to them over and over again in my car. I try to get a rhythm to them, because if it's songs, the songs come much more easily than the lines are. There were a lot of lines in the last show I did, learning them in groups. Finding Gay Jones taught me a lot about, she's so incredibly brilliant too, and I've learned a lot from her, finding connections and getting a little rhythm, or finding those little connections between this word and the next word, or you know, even if it's alliteration, or you know, something, or some kind of number pattern or something. So you've really got to be on it, but relax at the same time. So I guess that's the double-edged sword there, because you've got to be relaxed enough to take it all in and not worry too much, but you also really need to be
There.
doing your homework.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one too, doing your homework, working on things every night, being dedicated.
Well, Suzy, thank you so much for joining us. There's so much that you do and your husband does between the Ojai Education Foundation. We need a new curtain out there. We've got the whole Discovery Reading thing coming up. There's all kinds of things. So out in Ojai, it's time for you to just get moving. You need to really support your community here. Thank you.